Hello, the disembodied consciousness of Trevor here. Did you know that I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together? Anyway, here's a video about cats.
So one thing I want to say is, whenever I think about consciousness, I think we differ in this regard. Whenever I think about consciousness, I think of like there's a quality to a being. That is to say, there is, and all of y'all have heard this at least once before, there is something it is like to be that thing. That is to say that I'm bearing on the assumption that there's a cat in one of your rooms right now. I feel like there might be.
Probably so.
Well, is there something it is like, quiet in the night while you're asleep, is there something it is like to be your cat as they stare at you, getting ready to pounce directly onto your face when you least expect? Or maybe they're quite friendlier than that. Maybe there's something it is like to see that cat not mind when you pick it up and put a hat on it, that it obviously could do well without. You know?
Yeah, but the
is there
cat's unaware
something...
of that.
The cat has no awareness of the fact that it has being, or there's something it is like to be that cat. Are you saying? So now I'm trying to interact with what you just said. That was really substantive. So what you're saying is there is something it is like to be that cat, but insofar as the cat isn't aware of the fact, there's not like this reflexive connection between what is and what isn't in that way, or past and present, or whatever it is. Therefore, there is no such thing as to be a cat. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that, well, you can recognize that there is something like the cat that exists, and from your explanation. The cat is unaware of that. The cat has no conception of this. While the cat is a thing in such that it is a being, it is alive, it is a cat, it exists in reality as a cat.
Yes.
It is wholly unaware of any of that. It has no conceptualization of any of the why. It has no way to approach the why. It has no way to ask the why question of why am I cat? All it knows is, I am me, I exist.
Well, is that not sufficient for qualia or experience? For me, that's synonymous with consciousness.
All my cat knows is be gay, eat hot chip, and lie.
Yeah, dude.
Trevor, just because you experience does not mean you are conscious.
So that comes back to that thing you mentioned at the very beginning about awareness and like sentience and that sort of thing. We're really mixing our peas in with our porridge here. There are many different things that we're talking about at the same time. You know, I'm talking about this and you're talking about that. When I think of consciousness, what I'm thinking of is the experience of reality. Like there's a certain like there's a certain something you get out of seeing the color red. There's a light on. There's presence within you. Whatever that thing is, whether it be an ant.
Can we dive into that?
As you can go. Say it.
Can we dive into that? I feel like that might be enlightening if we talk about what we mean by experience reality.
Yes, because when I think of experiencing reality, that's synonymous with consciousness. Qualia is synonymous with consciousness. It's all one thing. Now, if you want to talk about self-awareness of the fact after the fact, that's a different conversation. Like one's a binary on or off switch. You either have qualia and experience or don't. And the other one is, well, where on the scale, in the scale that I determine right now after the fact, do you fit on the scale that I determine? You know, it's something you do after the fact.
I have a much more metaphysical description of consciousness than you might be working with. Right?
Certainly.
Because I'm speaking more from the rational human mind. Because what sets us apart from everything else, insofar as we have the ability to, one, look within ourselves and ask questions about ourselves and know ourselves, and two, the ability to basically, like I said previously, subjugate everything else, which we have done. We have used our superior intellects and our ability to, think ahead and rationalize to basically conquer this planet. We are the dominant life form. We are not the most plentiful life form. We are dominant.
Yeah, it reminded me. Sorry, Dr. Koski, our philosophy professor, used to draw this thing on the board when we would talk about this exact kind of thing, and it was like a brain, like a head with a brain inside. And it was like information coming in, and then like this weird spiral thing, and then stuff going out. And it was like the most critical part of the whole thing was that it was more than just experience. It was the inner rationalization of that.
Yeah.
And that, what
And that's what I'm
goes
getting
out
at.
will never be the same as what came in.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
getting
got
at. I mean, we have the ability, like everything else. We experience things. We experience nature. We experience pain, pleasure, sorrow, happiness. So, but while we experience those things, we also somehow have the capacity to think about why that is, to rationalize it within ourselves, and to offer an explanation for why. We are concerned with why. We are concerned with truth.
Right.
We can be concerned with truth. We can ask those questions. We have that capacity.
Yes.
We are conscious insofar as we have the ability and the drive and the desire for why.
Well, that's just it, though. Like, why does that matter? I mean, like you mentioned earlier, like the whole extent of mankind, like our ability to extend its fingertips across the earth and perhaps across the stars. It very well could be said there will be a time where humans can extend their reach beyond much further than what you and I consider to be sci-fi today, even that sort of thing. But whoever said that mattered? It's dependent upon, that's a presupposition that you bring to the table to assert that is what consciousness is. But that's just something that you're presently doing. Well, I suppose so. I suppose so. You make a point.
All thought is based on presupposition and the processing information from my own point of view. If we choose to focus on that, then this whole system unravels, and none of this is sensible, and it all becomes absurd.
Well,
so I guess I'm trying to keep up with the conversation. I know
it's thoughts like that, the ability to rationalize where this meaning is derived from, that makes us conscious. So that's what separates us from everything else. So we have the capacity.
So what you just did, though, yes.
To ask these questions.
Yeah. So what you just did, though, and like all of this stuff, and like consciousness is just this thing that I am saying what it is right now. That's exactly why I'm conscious.
Yeah.
It's like
the fingers for focus. He's like, I got to keep all the thoughts right here, or else they're gonna run off the rails.
I'm trying to draw it with my hands. Like I'm characterizing. Like imagine. Well, one second. Like I try to characterize. Like this is the world that you're playing in. Like you created. Like hey, it's all just within this world that I'm currently creating for you right now. And also, I'm reaching in from outside of the world I created to show that it's real. But in the end, like you can't say that it all happens within the world that you just abstracted. This is just what I say it is, and then say and then there's this other thing that's like shows that it has efficacy because you're now playing entirely within this abstraction that you've created for yourself. You can't
only have agency within the sphere that I have created for myself. I can only have thoughts that I can have.
That seems fair.
You're right, but you can't say that consciousness ought to be anything other than the thing you. This is annoying.
It is.
Yeah, I got lost at the claw game analogy.
I agree with Brayton insofar as consciousness is an emergent property biologically from the complexity of our brains.
He said something very important right there. He said something very important. He said biologically.
Yeah.
So it's of the physical state of affairs. Yes.
Yes.
So I think
it had to emerge physically. It's not a spiritual thing. I don't believe in a spiritual existence.
So that's just to say that everything is physicality. So you can't even say the word spiritual.
Technological possibility.
Well, that's within the subset of physical, is it?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all just physicality.
But so is an organic possibility. Right. It's all physical.
Yes.
So there is no spiritual. To the folks at home who might have some sort of religious upbringing or be religious yourselves, you're wrong.
God damn, with his sunglasses on. This son of a bitch.
Dark Tanner.
To say it, you're wrong.
Dark Tanner.
Dark Tanner.
There is nothing beyond the bounds which we have laid out for ourselves physically and explored scientifically. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, I gotta say, the periodic table in the background is really just making it.
I made a joke about that earlier.
By the
such
way,
a hard
old periodic table.
Take,
God damn it.
There are no
this man's got his
full send tonight.
Full tint sunglasses with the cardigan and full size periodic table. This man's pulling no punches.
So here's a question about ants. to kind of feather into this thing that Bray mentioned earlier would be interesting.
Yeah, we should bring up that.
Yeah, like we're talking about. I want to talk about quality of experience. Is there, and Tanner, you yourself read this recently. Like, is there something it is like to be a bat? And right there, I just referenced Thomas Nagel and his work on consciousness himself. Is there something it is like to be then insert thing? For his sake, he worked with the mammalian thing, which is great because it's very, at least somewhat similar to ourselves, humans also being mammals. He inserted bat. Is there something it is like to be a bat in space? You know, it may not have this terrific experiential thing that Tanner speaks of for consciousness, but it could very well be said that there's something it is like to be a bat. It has a somethingness, a suchness, a quality to his existence. If it sees the color red, there's a certain somethingness to that sudden experience of the color red for that being, in the same way that there is one for yourself. Maybe not with this extra something, rather, I don't know what, but there is something there. And the same, like a binary on and off switch of whether or not it's present is on for both you and the bat, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, you can speak, Brayton. I've been speaking.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's weird to hear things like that, like the questions of is there something that it's like to be X, and the X is almost always some sort of living thing. And to me, it seemed incredibly obvious that for anything that has sense perceptions, a brain, and reacts to an environment, et cetera, like it seems like there would obviously be some sort of experience, that it is like to be that thing. So are there? Do what? I empathize with it.
Well, yeah, I think what you're trying to say is right. Like, if it's alive and going, we could probably empathize with it at least a little bit.
Well, I didn't even know if I would use the word empathize there. I would just I can comprehend based on my own experience, like
its perspective.
I can't possibly understand what echolocation would, sorry for using this word, feel like, but or what it would feel like to fly, or something like that.
Imagine it.
But I can imagine the possibility, and or for something that doesn't see the same sort of spectrum of light, or does see more, or does certain things. Like it's easy to imagine that. So I wonder. I mean, are there people that are like, again, like think that there isn't something that it's like to be, say, a bat, or
well, the criteria for existence is there being something like that thing. No? So if it exists, there's something like it to be it. No, by definition, it's there. It exists.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by something? What do you mean by that something? Do you mean like something that is living, or do you mean just there is something?
Anything. I mean,
so there's something that's like to be a chair.
There is something like this book that exists because it is here. It exists. Definitionally, there must be something like this book which exists because it exists. It's self-referencing by nature.
Well, but is there something it is like to be that thing? That's a big difference. Like
I was going to say, for some to say
platonic boys,
the book exists, therefore it exists is one thing, but it's like the book exists, therefore there is an experience that it is like to be the book.
Well, I didn't say that. The book can't experience. The book is
okay. So that's the separation there. That's what we're talking about.
The ability to experience is tied specifically to an animate thing.
Animate. Well, what makes something animate?
Purposeful behavior.
Can it react to stimuli? Can it?
He was trying to nitpick your use of the word animate there.
That's pretty set. That's pretty well said. But I do want to say though, like this is something that Bray said a second ago that I kind of want to poke on. Like you mentioned, like okay, well it's quite obvious. It has a brain, it has sense perceptions. Not talking about a bat. It seems quite clear to me that there would be something it is like to be a bat. That sort of thing. So there are two things about that. Two things. Number one, how far are you willing to reduce from there? How small can I make this brain, and you would still say that this thing has experiential, not knowledge, because knowledge is a referential thing against what else is it? What else is present?
As it, in some capacity, can respond to an outside stimulus, I would say that it in the very least, is a living thing.
Ooh. Do we want to put any more qualifiers on that? Because
I can
It's a lot
think
of
of some
things.
places where this breaks down, so give me a second.
Squidward,
By complex,
I think Mr. Krabs is a robot.
Look, I know what Tanner's trying to get at here. And to adjust his definition for him a little bit, I would guess that he would say this. Some complex biochemical machinery comes together to make an organism that is responsive to stimuli above a certain threshold. I guess that would be his definition
Sure.
for
And the
for
ability
conscious.
to then process that stimuli and then have a reaction.
Well, two.
Would you
two things
describe
with
a
that.
plant as conscious?
Not conscious, but it would be living.
Is there something it is like to be that?
Or maybe
way?
I conflated the terms then.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
these
that's
are.
why I said conscious above a certain level. You know what I
Well,
mean?
so two things to that. Number one, if we are just physical things, physical phenomenon, the four of us, and so it's like a computer, let's say. Why does it have to be an organic being? Why can't it be something or other that isn't organic? And then the second thing,
I
and then
said
the
that
second
because
thing-
I know that that's what Tanner would say.
right.
right. And the second thing is there is a threshold. You say above a certain threshold. Well, this comes up to this is an often thing that was brought up. Almost finished. So this is an often thing that was brought up, like that reminds me of something that Hitchens said, or was it Dawkins? I mix up some of the arguments.
Let's just say it's Hitchens so we can get our
So we
quote
get
him.
our opinion. Yeah.
So the idea of heaven and hell is extremely strange, in that if you were to line up everybody that ever lived and draw a line of all these people are going to heaven and all these people are going to hell, there is like this one point between two different people that are completely, utterly similar in every single discernible way in terms of morality. But for whatever reason, the line was drawn here, and everybody on the left of this is going to heaven, and the other and on the right of this is going to hell. Some tiny separation between these two people, between this drawing line. And for whatever reason, eternal damnation awaits for everyone on the left of the line. And the same thing can be said for this. Like this threshold, we're talking about not all of humans. So that's everybody on that is I presume to be everything on the right, or at least almost entirely. But also all things that have ever existed exist somewhere within this spectrum. And this threshold is extremely difficult to encounter in that way, because it becomes the heaven and hell problem. It becomes an arbitrary line between two completely indistinguishable things.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got.
Taking a break from all your worries should help a lot.
Wouldn't you like to get away?
Sometimes you wanna go
Where everybody knows your name.
And they're always confusing.
You wanna be where you see troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.
You're goddamn right.